Hey, everybody. It is Kelly Nielsen here, the Grief Guru. And on this channel, we discuss all things related to grief. What does it look like? What does it feel like? But most importantly, we share tips, tools, and resources on how to move through grief to get back to living a life that you love. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the holidays. Such a tough time for people when they're going through grief. So we're going to share some of our best tips and tools for how to navigate through the holidays when you're grieving. So let's get into it. First of all, let me just say that grief is a bit of a moving target and it changes substantially year to year. So what your holiday experience may be like the first year might be dramatically different in subsequent years. And it may be better or it may be worse. Mostly when I work with clients and in my own personal experience, the first set of holidays was the toughest. So if this is the first set of holidays that you're facing after the loss of a loved one, kind of brace yourself. There are going to be a lot of parts about it that are hard. But I've also talked with people that have had a harder time in subsequent years. So as with all things related to grief, I kind of advise people to be flexible, be prepared to give yourself patience and grace, have kind of a plan A and a plan B. And at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's going to be what it's going to be. But here are some suggestions. If this is your first set of holidays, I've heard from several people to just skip the holidays altogether. A lot of people go on trips or just do whatever to kind of go over the holidays and almost act like they don't exist. And that can be helpful for people. Our holiday traditions are exactly that. They're traditions. And chances are there are so many memories and so many traditions that are attached to the loved one that you lost. So it may be very hard to kind of engage and interact with traditions like normal. So that might be one suggestion. Take a trip, do something completely out of the ordinary or not at all related to holidays. I know in my case, the first Christmas was just especially hard. It felt really empty and really lonely for me. So I ended up going to the beach and getting some ice cream. That's what I did that day. We didn't have any sort of gathering or celebration. That's just what it was the first year. But in subsequent years, it changed and evolved over time. And in fact, last Christmas, it was actually really healing, sweet time for me where I was able to incorporate some traditions that my mom had for us when we were growing up and include some Christmas ornaments that she had left my kids. Every year she would buy a Christmas ornament for all of her grandkids. And so at the time of her passing, I had two big tubs of Christmas ornaments, one for Quentin, my son, and one for Piper, my daughter. So last year we actually decorated the tree and used all of those ornaments. And I felt incredibly close to both my mom and my son, Quentin. So that's something I want to advise, depending on how far you are in your journey or just how you're feeling this year, at some point, there's an opportunity and a time to incorporate your loved one into your traditions, either keeping traditions that they used to do alive or creating new traditions that include or involve them. You know, having a special ornament on the tree that was their ornament or talks about them is a great way to do that. I know a lot of people will light a candle at Thanksgiving and Christmas celebrations to remember and honor the people that aren't there. Some people even have a chair at the dinner table, an empty chair at the dinner table, just recognizing and remembering that someone in your family is physically not there with you. And it is a great time when family gets together to, talk about memories and stories about a loved one. You can find over time that it actually can be a really healing time for you. But if you're not at that place yet, I want to give you a couple more tips and suggestions as you go into this holiday season. The first one is the power of no. Feel free to say no. Just because you're invited to every single, work event and neighborhood party and even family gathering, know your own limits, understand your emotional capacity, and be very in tune with what you can and can't do. It's perfectly okay to leave extra margin. When you're grieving and going through grief, it takes a lot of energy, and knowing your capacity and being able to manage your emotional energy is huge when you're grieving. So feel free to say no. That's my first tip. Secondly, if you do say yes to go to an event or a party, just be mindful of conversations. And if you need to leave, that's okay too. I always like to go with a friend or someone and have a signal worked out that if it gets to be too emotional or too much for me to handle, I just tug on my ear and that friend knows to come and swoop me away either to another conversation or to leave the party altogether. So the power of no is first suggestion. Having a backup plan or an escape plan is the second suggestion. The third suggestion is to be sure not to isolate, right? So it's a fine line between not staying too busy and knowing your limits, but you also can't just hide under a blanket and wait for the holidays to be over. That is not a good idea either. If you are just left alone with your thoughts and the grief by yourself, that is a recipe for disaster. So again, you know what's best for you, but I do want to encourage you to stay connected to at least a few friends or family members throughout the holidays. Do whatever you feel up to doing, but make sure you stay connected to folks. And that leaves me to my last tip and suggestion, and that is to communicate. Talk with your friends and family members about how you're feeling about the upcoming holidays. Think about what you would like to do, what you think would really serve you during this holiday season, and let them know that. Most people want to help, they want to be supportive, they just don't know how. Another thing to consider is, depending on who you lost, your family members may all be grieving as well. And so it's a great opportunity to have a family discussion and just talk about it. How is everyone feeling? How is everyone feeling about the upcoming holidays, and what does everyone hope to get out of it? Maybe those discussions can help you to create some new traditions or help you to be there for one another during this upcoming holiday season. So those are just a few tips from us here at Grief Guru. For those of you that it's going to be a hard holiday season, my heart goes out to you. My prayers are with you. And as always, in all things, we are here cheering you on every step of the way of your recovery. If you want more tips and tools, be sure to subscribe to this channel. And if you really don't want to go through the holidays alone and think you're needing some extra help, check out our website, www.thegriefguru.com, and we'll be happy to connect you to a group or a coach that can walk with you through this holiday season. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.